Welcome back to another edition of Paper Trails. We were talking about sundown towns. In this particular video, I did covering, I believe it was Douglas County in Georgia. I had a comment from True May, and they had basically said that not Douglas County, it's a black sheriff, majority black police force, 60% black population. You're not getting stereotyped in Douglas County, but they will pull you over. So Douglas County is a wrong one. I appreciate the feedback and the engagement. The purpose of these videos, especially the Sundown Town series, are to just highlight towns that were, and a lot of them still are sundown towns. So I'm not saying that Douglas County on the whole may not be like that now, but maybe you could be confusing Douglas County with Douglasville. Now, Douglasville is definitely a full black situation, damn near. I watched it go from nothing to something. The city is bubbling. They even got a Starbucks out there now, you know what I'm saying? But basically I used to, take my boy out there because there used to be a lot of AAU tournaments out there. So for like damn near shit, elementary all the way up to high school. I've literally over that damn near decade plus of my child's, you know, journey in sports of going to tournaments out there, I've seen the development. You know what I mean? They didn't even have like, really no businesses out there like that popping like that. But it's lit out there now. But let's go on ahead and get into the history on it real quick, just to go a little bit deeper. So Douglas County was originally spelled with two S's. Douglas County was originally named after Frederick Douglass, the fellow black activist, fresh out of, the Civil War era and all of that. So it was in his honor that it was named. But then during, the Reconstruction or really post Reconstruction, when a lot of these racist white Democrats took control of the South again, what they did was they kept the name, but they just took one of them S's off and then renamed it in honor of Stephen A. Douglas, who was pretty much, some kind of lawmaker at that time or whatever, maybe governor, mayor, whatever the hell he was. But that's what that was. They always want to try to flip something that we do and then try to, put a negative spin on it. So that's the first part. And that was around 1874 when the federal troops left up out of Georgia, specifically, time frame. So we're going to go on ahead further. So during Jim Crow, black children in Douglas County went to separate, underfunded schools. The county's only school for black students operated from 1936 to 1957. So they definitely was on that separate and unequal tip all the way into the 1950s as far as education. So as far as recent events of racism out there in the county on a whole, of course there was that viral incident on social media a while back where you had the black FedEx driver trying to deliver some packages, and the white um, homeowner was spazzing out and all of that, giving the guy a hard time. So that's one incident. So going back to your points of the black demographics between 2000 and 2020 was really when the county saw a large influx of black residents come in. And that's because of course, everybody migrating into Atlanta, and Atlanta is already, either overcrowded or the homes that they wish they had, they can't afford. So they were forced to go further west to get cheaper price homes, which made Douglasville become more and more of a destination, as well as Douglas County on a whole, because of course you got Villa Rica, Lithia Springs, all them other little nearby sprinkle areas that are, popular destinations. So another little tidbit, there are still challenges in Douglas County. In 2024, the county's black election director reported receiving racist death threats, a harsh reminder of the resistance to progress. Yet Douglas County continues to evolve, holding Black History Month events and seeing, growing political engagement from its black residents. But with all that said, it was a sundown town, sundown county. It's only in the last 20 years that it really got bubbling as far as us. The same thing, and here's the little bonus knowledge. So the same thing for Stone Mountain. I remember when I moved down here back in '98, one of my coworkers was telling me how the Klan was burning crosses on top of Stone Mountain all the way up into the 1980s regularly. You feel me? Like if it was 1930 or some shit. And then during the pandemic, in case you weren't aware, um, if you remember that black group that promote arming yourself and protecting yourself, I think the NFC, not fucking around committee, I think they still active doing their thing because I saw something on one of these little news videos or whatever. But I say all that to say, back during the height of the pandemic, the Klan came out to Stone Mountain a couple thousand deep, and so did the brothers from the Not Fucking Around Committee. They was out there with their AR-15s. The Klan was out there, and the Klan promptly got the fuck up out of there once they seen that there was some actual equal resistance ready to see their ass. Also during the pandemic, in the heart of Atlanta, I'm talking about in the hood, in the perimeter, there was Klan doing drive-bys through certain areas and shit where I guess they felt motherfuckers was weak, but motherfuckers was pulling out, like, blasting on them niggas and ran them the fuck out of there. Now you might see that on the news if you Google that shit. Pandemic, Atlanta, Klan, white supremacists. Yeah, it was like that. You know what I'm saying? But Atlanta is also the site of the infamous 3 day standoff where white supremacists slash Klan were trying to run niggas out of Atlanta, and the brothers, the ancestors, had literally a 3 day shootout, and them devils got tired of fucking with niggas in the city and just bounced and gave up. You know, so it's definitely a different breed down here in Atlanta, but you know, you definitely have your racist sundown towns out in this bitch sprinkled around. You know what I mean? Atlanta is just a black stronghold as more and more black people come here because it's the mecca. And once again, even with Atlanta, if you don't know the history, um, as far as the recent histories, I'm talking about the 1990s and really 1990 in particular. Around then is when you really kind of had your explosion of black people even moving into the city itself, the heart of Atlanta. You had your first rappers like Eric Sermon from EPMD. You had Too Short. I think even Tupac might have, purchased, a house down here. Of course, you had your boy Prime Time, who he was young as hell. He was doing his thing down here. The city was lit. You also had a young Dominique Wilkins. So at that time, all of this stuff is bubbling. You got TLC emerging, you know, Jermaine Dupri taking over. So that was kind of what really prompted um black attention nationwide. Like, okay, that's the place to be. Then they started doing the Jack the Rappers and all of that. So once the green light was lit, that's when, you know, our people nationwide started to slowly come into Atlanta to where it's this black mecca that it really is today. It's always been a black city, quote unquote, but it became black excellence once the black music industry on the whole started to come down, which that presence was so strong that the movie industry started to come down here. You feel me? So I know we pivoted from, you know, sundown towns and white supremacy, but I figured why not? We just gonna touch on some extra little bonus info on Atlanta history in general. But I'll let y'all niggas slide and get back to y'all day, and I'll holla at y'all.